Peace, peace, peace. Let me set this up. Why? I got this great lighting right here. Let me slide this over. Peace. Give me a moment. Cause that sun is beaming and it is glowing. Peace, peace, peace. Shalom. Greetings to all. Kind of like want to pick up on. I'll give an honor to source, give an honor to the ancestors known and unknown. I want to pick up on like a topic that I feel like I just want to give this message out. Why it's on like my mind, because I was painting and I was like, well, let me just get this out now and deliver it. Why, why it's resonating, or why it's still like, in the oven. Now it's like beep, here you go. So anywho, that was this topic I was speaking about. That again, it's not about ruffling feathers, but it's not to say it's a reality for everyone. But coming into my own awareness of this and seeing how a lot of things is being dismantled, false foundations that were built upon control, narcissism, emotional manipulation. Okay, that happened purposefully. So anywho, and I was just talking about stuff falling apart and something literally like, anywho, just came off the wall, like literally. So where I'm getting at is this, just talking about this subject, the subject that I'm going to speak about is that your relationship with yourself is vital, is more important than a relationship with your child. You hear this debate where you see a lot of people, or just seen from experience, because I'm going to see how I'm going to get into this. And those of you that don't have children, this still can resonate in a sense of even how your day-to-day routine or how you show up for yourself, and how, again, life is a balance where you show up for you and then you service others. But the old reality, the old narrative, which you see in being dismantled or falling apart, is that we, or people as human beings, people will overextend themselves due to their own woundings. And a lot of us never knew that we had these childhood traumas, and a lot of us coming into their awareness now, seeing how much that has affected us, seeing how we have developed these behavior patterns and how it looped through the same cycle generationally. So that being said, the reason I'm speaking about how the topic of your relationship, loving yourself, honoring yourself, showing up for you is more important than any relationship. That with your kids, anyone. And the reason being, from my own experience, having seen the dysfunctionality go on for so long with people that I love and with people that I realized that didn't have this blueprint. So what I'm getting at is that we have this blueprint. And what I mean by blueprint is that the activation of coming into knowing what it is to show up for ourselves, what it is to love ourselves, what it is to, all that's being centered around self-improvement. And that's a daily task, because it doesn't just happen overnight. So we haven't had these foundations or these environments or places where we have felt safe, secure, and being in those environments where, caregivers or parents, being the tools that they've had, served its purpose up to this very moment, to where we're now shifting the tide. So that being said, when I say my relationship with myself is more important than my partner, her and our relationship, my princess, or anyone else, some people will object and be like, what do you mean? It's because I know from my own experience, I know what it feels like to be exhausted for giving, giving, giving. And at some point, the giver has to be open to receive. So when I look at society's viewpoint or what we all have been affected by, and what has been passed down through generations, being how things were out of balance, our mothers didn't have these places where they felt safe and secure to express themselves emotionally, mentally, where they felt, and then what that caused for that had an effect on the generation or the kids that they will bring into this world. So you're talking about women and men who never felt safe. Not going back to, they never felt safe in their environments, their home, and their upbringing. So that trickled down to them being in relationships and giving birth to kids through cycles of trauma, of pain, which they normalize, and they've been in it so long that once you try to tell a narcissist that this is this, and once you try to tell people that this is this, and the reality and the truth, we know some elders, or we know of some people that no matter what you express to them, no matter what you say, they're going to stick to what they know until something happens. And some of them are so prideful. Some people are so, oh no, some of them will want to brush it up under the rug, let things pass and just be like, may apologize. But where I'm getting at is this, is that this is what has been going on for so long, is that even in them staying true to what they feel they know, which has served their purpose, which has served its purpose, the foundations of what they kept going, the dysfunction, was centered around external validation, external acceptance, being in a place of where they're not safe, secure, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, being in places where, in environments where they have experienced like tremendous trauma and still haven't recovered from it. Them having had repressed emotions from the previous, parents and guardians that they had, and them carrying that. So you're talking about generations where they have not only repressed what they felt, but suppressed it through their work environments, through their relationship with other people, by putting everything else before self. So you're talking about us now, certain people, standing in our power, standing in our truth, and being honest with self first, assessing things with self first. That's very unfamiliar to people who have no idea, and they never seen that before. So they criticize it. There's a lot of backlash that comes with that. And so here we are saying, as a man, I love myself, I honor myself. And how that choosing your relationship with self, your relationship with your higher power, going inward, because your emotions come up. Your what you do with your actions first start inward, because that's an emotion. You expressing yourself, in a way to where, again, however that looks from whatever you experience, whatever perception that may be from. So again, that most important relationship starts with you first, women and men. We have come from caregivers or parents that didn't have this idea. So here we are now trying to do certain things where I'm deciding whether I want to do this, whether it feels right, because I've been so displaced or outside of myself, trying to fit in the norm, constantly trying to fit a square into a circle. Can you imagine that? Hundreds and thousands of millions and billions of people who are trying to be or live the American dream, or live, and literally they're living a nightmare but they convince themselves that this is a dream, in a way of like the false illusion of fulfillment. And now that it's ran its course and it hit them face on, now we're all being faced with the reality that your relationship with yourself is more important. Because see, in that pattern that you act out, someone's always watching, meaning that the youth, no matter where, you're acting out your fears or whatever it is, and because every emotion doesn't come out pleasantly. It takes a moment to get to this place where you're trying to find peace. But you're talking about a generation prior to us, and some people, who how could I say this? Who praises like violence, or praises, certain things that really keeps them from really finding that inner peace. And you can see the war that's raging within people. You can see it, because I too was there, because I was around and saw that in relationships, saw people who wage, you're talking about mothers that have been and have yet, for some, and fathers and people, whomever, around the world, global, in their environments, in their countries, some people who have never ate a wholesome meal. You got some people who have never experienced peace. You got some people birthed, and not just in the Americas. You got things everywhere globally to where people really never knew what it is to be, and it's not say be in control of their lives, but more so like be at peace with their lives, no matter what's going on externally. Because a wise man once said, would you rather be at war with yourself and at peace with the world, or would you rather be at peace with yourself and at war with the world? And see, that's the thing a lot of us haven't accepted, because even speaking out and being honest about this, I've come to the self-realization with my own experiences to see how, had I not did the inner work or shadow work, meaning that had I not faced my own things head on, had I not learned what it is to why I had at that moment where I developed, this rage, where is this pain stemming from? Where are all these emotions coming up from? And see, in that, I'm learning about me, without the world really being there. And that's a part of being secluded and then balancing out, being there, being of service to other people. Meaning that before I make this video, I got to be with me and then go out there and express this to y'all and share this with you. So again, we haven't had a blueprint as such. We haven't been given these guidelines, a lot of which were given to us forcefully, manipulatively. And that created instability within ourselves, created more chaos than peace. Because I even feel all of that is a balance between the dark and the light. So when I'm saying the most important relationship is with yourself first, you know you better than you. I know me better than anyone. So for someone to come and tell me how I should do something, when, where, and not be in this, and see, that's the thing that I was expressing to someone, how far and how long people have been in their programming for so long. You're talking about people never really doing what they love. So eventually they begin to hate it. But due to them not really assessing their repressed emotion, they continuously go through this loop of suppressing it, not doing what they love. And then it's like a volcano waiting to erupt. And that's what you see now and with around the world when it comes to mental health, when it comes to a lot of people that don't know the importance of what emotional intelligence is, or knowing how to even use their emotions, or allowing their emotions to be a guide. The youth, for instance, teach, like, imagine we growing up, we were taught that our relationship with ourselves and, whatever your higher power is, that's more important than what anyone, your school teachers, anyone at the universities, wherever it is in the world, that's more important than anything. Then you will have a world, or will have created a world, or will as such, that can honor who they are. They feel honored to be who they are, unapologetically, not looking for external validation or seeking acceptance from anyone, but being the dysfunctionality in what a lot of us have been affected by. You will see that no matter the age, we have learned this young, where our mothers and caregivers, or even before them, being that a lot of our women, beginning with the matriarchal, how it affected the patriarchal, by their displacement and not really honoring and having a safe place, or a place to even feel safe, and not knowing that their relationship with themselves and their higher power is more vital than anything else. How they're beautiful within, they're divine within, how they are already loved within, and loved by the Creator, by Source. But how that it has affected them due to their upbringing, their relationship, then they will project onto the young men and women, then keeping that cycle going, whether through the young men patriarchally, or whether through the women, the little girls matriarchally. So you gotta think about the emotional aspect of how all of our women and men have been affected by the fact of not really knowing the importance of honoring their emotions, knowing the importance of how it is and what it is to be secure within self, how to be interdependent rather than independent, in the sense of being more secure, honoring who you are within, rather than just going out here pretty much just boasting and bragging about your independence, but disregarding the fact of what it took for you to get there, or the connection and how you got there. So you're talking about years and years of trauma that we're unhealing. And now a lot of us coming to see the importance of why the relationship with ourselves is vital. Because the truth and the reality is, a lot of our mothers, a lot of women, never had a relationship with themselves, because they were looking, and men, because they were looking outside of themselves to feel that wholeness. So they showed up halfway. And in that half, they were overextending themselves until their cup became empty. So you tell me, like I'm telling you, that it isn't important to pour into myself first, then go out there and to try to balance that out with other people. So you're talking about a generation of trauma who never at a point in time, I do believe it was that way, where everyone knew the wholeness of who they were. But now seeing how things are coming in back into balance, being that we all have an energy of have an energy of feminine and masculine energy. You're talking about, again, a lot of our mothers matriarchally who are now healing and really acknowledging these things. Now being faced with not only the emotions that they have dealt with, but the repressed emotions from whether past versions of themselves, past relationships, past lives, repressed emotions dealing with their mother, then their mother's interaction with the patriarchal, with men. Then you're talking about what before that, 20 generations you had, you can do the math, 20 generations, because you got 2 per person. You're talking about over hundreds to even a million ancestors. That means people that came before you. So for one, on an ancestral level, you're talking about a lot of us now seeing the importance in regaining that security back in self, having to purge out those very things that sometimes our mother and fathers didn't even get a chance to. You're talking about ancestors. You're talking about people that came before you who forcefully or were in these dynamics, whether it be military, whether it be in environments or places where some did go through, because I'll dive deep into that much more later. Some that were held captive, because I don't like to use that S word, but held captive or in captivity. So you're talking about even some people, a lot of us are breaking generational curses and chains around that. Because it's not just a mental, it's not a physical thing per se. You're talking about a spiritual warfare where you're trying to, you're spreading your message and breaking free here and here, inside first. Because those of you that do know in the spiritual aspect, when you're being authentic, that shit coming up, all that stuff purging, you're talking about a war in the mind. You're talking about, like my partner was talking, she brought to light about this, an inner dialogue. An inner dialogue that a lot of us are now coming to that awareness of actually having an inner dialogue that wasn't even ours. That's what programming is. It's like a computer. An inner dialogue, you were sent here, as an upload in a way, but what was downloaded to you was dysfunctionality, was emotional manipulation, was a lot of things that, that passed generationally. And a lot of that, again, you're talking about things that have been passed down. So you downloaded this. And as you're going through your life, you're uploading it. Think about that. That's beautiful. It's like a truck. Think about how things you upload the baggage or whatever has been carried through generations. And then you download it like you're shipping it. You're literally, again, you are, how could I say this? Like, you are your greatest asset. That's the importance of learning the relationship with yourself. You are the greatest asset in your life. You are the everything first. You are your greatest asset, not your kids. Because the reason I'm saying that is because you're talking about, again, how things have been passed down generationally. So if it stops with you, if it ends with you, it begins with you. Only you can see certain things that your child or whomever around you, they also have their own connection to their higher power or source. But you're talking about how, in the old foundations where certain things were projected, certain things were instilled in people through a fear-mongering way. If you don't do this, then you'll go here. If you don't, the whole world cannot operate as such. It's not divine order. It's not the order of things. So in reality, again, you're talking about how things have been, you have processed these things since you were younger. It was never instilled in you that your relationship with yourself should be beautiful and vibrant. And you should love every version of yourself, no matter what you went through. And that's what you see with a lot of our caregivers or people who project and lash out, haven't experienced that. You're talking about the reason they're lashing out and projecting their own insecurities or shadow aspect of themselves is because they haven't faced it. It's because they still hate or despise or running from the versions of themselves that they were never inclined or introduced to love. To love that aspect of themselves. That means that shadow aspect. For me to even get here, I had to learn to love those parts of myself where I wasn't, and not beat myself up over the parts of myself that, I realized, like, whether I was verbally, physically, mentally abused, and when I continued it, I had to be the one to go face that. I had to be the one that had to take accountability and and learn from and through those consequences, action, reaction, or from the I had to respond in a better way from that. Only I could do that. So, dang, what was my partner saying? I had said it on the video. Yeah, basically, bam, I say. The inner dialogue. A lot of us have an inner dialogue that's not even ours. I mean, somebody in your mind, you ever got to a place where you want to do something? And this is why I say the most important relationship is healing yourself. You can call it higher self, inner child, or your inner essence. It's like we're fighting for that. And so in the importance of trying to fight for that, you have others, the opposition, that don't know what that is because they're so used to chaos. They're so used to their life being imbalanced, or they're so used to walking in the shadows that they have no idea what the light looks like. So in you acknowledging and accepting that and facing your shit, you're acknowledging the fact that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And some of us are the guiding light for those people. That don't mean we can save them. No, that means you are the guiding light. That means you keep moving forward no matter what. And in that guiding light and shining light, you come in to illuminate things, because this is why you can see opposition or people who are unhealed or have unresolved traumas. It's because some of them don't even know the importance or have even got or introduced to the importance of loving themselves, knowing what it is to take a break, take a moment to self. So in that, again, going to how the inner dialogue, a lot of which, if you're trying to do something, and which I had to get through, is how, how let's say you grew up in childhood, you had a verbal abusive mother or father or someone that was verbally abusive. Imagine here when you were young, like, sit your ass down. You'll never be this. You ain't shit. Or, just numerous of things that I heard. But you're also talking about how those seeds were planted, and you're talking about generation. And not generationally were these things of people who, again, have had unresolved issues, repressed emotions, and having suppressed their emotions, they're unhappy or they're not at peace with themselves. They don't see the bigger picture, so they only see their circumstances. They only see survival. So you become on the other you become how could I say this? You become the basically the sponge, in a sense. You become the sponge, and think about you as a child. You're the sponge. You're soaking up all these things, not knowing that someday you will have to squeeze it all out. You're soaking up all these things emotionally, mentally, all these projections from people, and you having this, this inner dialogue as you progress in life, which you try to perceive yourself. Oh, I'm progressing, and in reality, being that you're thinking or assuming that, well, there is progression until you see the progression. So you're going through life just assuming, like, man, I can't have a successful relationship, or I can, or I can do this, I can do this. But just imagine from the programming of being around people who didn't know their value and how much you didn't realize that affected you. So you are, at that point in time, you're living through survival. And then you never knew what it was to thrive until you start loving yourself, until you start loving those inner wounds, that aspect of yourself where, yeah, my mama said this, so let me realize that I'm not her projections. I'm not her insecurities. I'm not her emotions. I'm not whatever it is she hasn't healed. But I'm responsible for my own emotions. So the inner dialogue is that people have been going on through life. And some of you know, and I don't like to use these terms, but it's like some of people, because being melanated or whatever it is, some people got the Caucasian or certain people in their head. Fear of, and it ain't just your mama, it ain't just your daddy, it could be anyone. that's living in your mind in a sense to where it's like they told you something when you were young and you don't realize how that shit has planted and sprouted. And really it was a weed. That's what I want to tell you. It was a weed in your garden, because your mind is a garden. Your body is sacred. You're a garden. But you're talking about people inside. See, this is something where I'm telling you it begins inside first, where you have to weed this out. It's a process. Because until you get that out and become at peace with these things, they will show up externally. And that's why you see certain people, that through trauma bonding, because that's what developed was trauma bonding. And here we are assuming that was unconditional love, like they could do what they want, I still gotta love them. Yeah, you still can love them, but it's also important for you to love you. And in loving you, you will see backlash from that, because you start to show up and protect that same peace that you were trying to gain this whole time. And then you start to realize that they never had it. Then you start to see who the victim is, and you no longer become a victim. You no longer be a victim, you become a victor. You start to walk in victory. You start to stand up again. You start to protect that inner child. And you start to realize, like, this inner dialogue was never mine. That was their inner dialogue. So that relationship with yourself then becomes more vital, more important. Then you realizing that relationship becomes more important than whatever you develop with anyone else. See, a child, they can be innocent. I get that. Because they're watching us. They're younger, they're watching us. But for some, I'm talking about even to some elders, even y'all, I'm talking to everybody. This can be perceived so many ways. It's a lot of even elders or people, what are you in your 30s and 40s? A lot of what you develop, you're thinking is love, and you're not letting your son or daughters, whatever it is, actually become who they truly are. A lot of that is inward. A lot of that inner battle is rooted in what you experienced with your mother. So you use this tactic and you call it love, and in reality, it's trauma bonding, which you use control. Because all of these kids, all of us have natural abilities and gifts. And it's just like a flower, you allow them to blossom. And then as women and men, you water them with your words. See, a lot of us haven't been watered. What we thought we were being watered with in the relationships and the connection we have, we weren't being watered. And when I'm saying watered, we were never nurtured in a healthy way. A lot of us still healing from fucking ass whoopers and beatings when we got young. Hello. And what that does, that only breeds rage and domestic violence. Hello, I experienced it and got through it. A lot of us still healing from that emotional trauma, that inner dialogue. A lot of us still trying to get our mom and dad or whomever, certain relationships where we were told certain things. We're still trying to heal and get that out of our mind. A lot of you mothers, a lot of you women, wherever you are, you're still trying to get the fact that what that dude said to you, or what he did. Same for me. It took me a while to even get to this place where I had to realize, like, why did I carry that on for so many years? And then you see the hindrance. Then you see that that's a generational curse. And I bind and rebuke it and remove it and return it to its original source. Or you can transmute it. You can cry. You can let it out. You can now step into your own power. But again, a lot of our mothers, I always speak to the women because, again, I believe everything began matriarchally because I learned most of what I saw and what I developed emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Most came from my mother when we're talking about the nurturing aspect and what I learned and what, whether in her womb and coming out, was that child development, that first 3 years. That was so vital that most of us don't even realize how important that was. How were you treated? Do you even recall? A lot of us came into so many traumatic experiences where, a lot of our mothers, melanated women especially, whether in these hospitals, they had a lot of painful births. They had a lot of things that were very traumatic. that they deem normal, that they've just accepted and been carrying that load of that emotional baggage for so long. And what that does is project it onto the young men and women. And they too carry it emotionally, mentally, spiritually, into the physical aspect. Never taught, because mama didn't know, and I'm not sitting here to bring I'm not judging no one. This is just, I call it divine justice. This means like we be praying or looking for these answers, and then here I am. That's how a lot of us, I feel, are being used right now. I'm not looking for people to accept and like. No, because when you're talking about a man who sit here and can, who has come into his own, who wants to protect his peace by all means, then someone may not understand and understand that still is going through chaotic moments. They may judge it from their perception or whatever they're going through. To each his own. That has nothing to do with me. And then you have those who will be triggered or in a way to where it helps aid towards their awareness and realizing how important it is to be with themselves again. I'm trying to send a message that, especially to our mothers, how important for you that it is to come back home to yourself, to love yourself again. That's what the divine really wants, because a lot of mothers haven't had that opportunity. A lot of grandmothers, a lot of great grandmothers. So it's you, young women too. It's you to learn your value, and that's why this relationship with yourself is more important than your kids. But you wasn't shown that, and so I don't fault you. I don't blame you. I wasn't shown that. Being in a home where you had a man that treated, well, let me go a little further back. Yeah, having a mother that, again, chose the streets, which is what she felt what was best. Then my father leaving when I was young, and then I didn't hear that story until later down the line. Why he chose to do that. Then in between that, having been having two sisters that were by different men, like my mother. So I'm sitting here growing up with, and a lot of people, I don't know, but I know from my experience, it's not even really caring about that. But at the same moment, when I start to look at it spiritually, and when I start to see it ancestrally, you're talking about how, again, it makes me used to think why was my mother doing that? Why did she feel, what inside of her that she didn't feel fulfilled enough to be with one man, or to even have, because some of us, I carried a lot of guilt for a while. If our mothers didn't want us, why did you have us? And, I know a lot of people can feel that. And it's if you didn't want to accept the responsibility, then why go through with it? So, but then it goes so much into seeing, again, diving more deeper, what was her relationship with her father? What was her relationship with her mother? But what was she seeking? What did she feel like she didn't get, And this is not to devalue her in any way. It's just it makes me question, a lot of us probably have experienced it. It made me question what are you going through? Can there anyone that sit down? Because I used to sit down with my mom a lot and have certain conversations. I felt like I was so wise beyond my age, because I used to be around a lot of elders, or I used to be with myself a lot in a way. So I knew how important, which I'm here now. I feel if you really reflect on your past, you'll realize how much it is a past and future is more if you're willing to evolve, how it enhances your past. If you're choosing to transmute or alchemize that pain and get through it and face it, you'll realize how expansive your future can be in many ways, internally and externally. So again, I was with myself a lot. I used to walk in the woods a lot. I used to be with myself. I used to question a lot young. I feel like I was so wise beyond like my appearance. Maybe whether what and it wasn't so much what I looked like. I just questioned a lot. And I started to make sense of why I was here and my mission and my purpose. It's like I'm just want to tell you, you've always walked your purpose. A lot of us get redirected or rejected for that redirection, or a lot of us for protection. And a lot of us, um, I know I myself, like, had I not been in this place, had I not did this, or had I not did this, I realized like I had to still go down that path. And there was no really running from it. But I realized how I naturally, from a youth, balanced out. I knew early that I didn't want to be a part of a lot of dysfunctionality. I knew early, really, now that I reflect, that I was that being a relationship with myself, I developed that young. I think a lot of us here, if you want to call them old souls, ancient souls, or a lot of people who were naturally, which I can say myself, I was probably naturally already spiritually in tune because I used to be out in nature. I used to be so amazed with nature. So I really realized that I was always developing or had developed a relationship with myself and with the higher power source because I used to question so much. I used to wonder why I had to be in relationships, or I used to wonder why that had to happen to me. I used to question a lot to um, why I had to experience that pain. Why did I have to experience being touched on young? Why did I have to experience being in that relationship? Why did I even introduce myself to alcohol? Why did I even hang around those people? It was so many things that I used to question. And then I start to really dive deeper. Then it was revealed to me a lot of which I developed emotionally was in the womb of my mother. And then her relationship with my father, seeing how I started to connect the dots a lot to, I used to be like, you know what, maybe a lot of what she and how she feels towards men is so much centered around her own inner wounds of what she experienced with men. So I had to choose at a point in my life that I would no longer be a scapegoat. And see, in no longer being a scapegoat, I had to stand in my own power. I had to face my own things first that I was dealing with and no longer carry the load of other people's emotional burdens, other people's burdens, period. I had to come to a place within myself to no longer carry the burdens, no matter what emergency or what tragically, what, untimely circumstances or, things that I realized externally was beyond my control. So, um, getting to that point where I realized, like, now I realized it took almost, and it's funny I'm making this video. I will be 34 in the rising. And what's this? Monday, Tuesday, I will be 34. And it's amazing that I'm making this video because it pretty much, the bigger picture is that I'm seeing um how important it is to learn now to reestablish and to refocus and to rebuild a relationship with myself and the creator. Had I not experienced those things, then I wouldn't have been here and still trying to process those things where I experienced when I was young, still trying to make sense of it, still trying to process the fact of like certain relationship dynamics and whether I choose to accept people back in my life, whether I choose to just close the door, this lifetime and never open it again. That's what's important about the relationship with yourself is that you come into your own power and you choosing to stand in your truth, your authenticity, no matter how uncomfortable it may be for other people. Because you in way, or we have been in a way, in the illusion or confusion of others, and in reality, had we not broken free and gotten away from that, how will we have known what it is to come into our own self-realization, to know what it is to self-improve, to know what it is to be, to self-care, self-love. See, self-love is loving those, the polarity of that is self-hate. So that helped me realize that the inner dialogues people had, or whatever they projected onto me, reflected their self-hate for them. And so they projected their hate onto me, or whatever, doing things that they love. Like me being, I'll use an example, like someone attacking my artistry. And I had to immediately counter that and be like, you know what? Why they gotta come at me? But then I started to look at it energetically. I started to see it like they're going through something internally. And sometimes I realize when people do that, they're actually admired. And really that's that relationship with myself, having been where I've gotten, I didn't let that bother me. That I didn't even have to allow, and that's the point where you don't even have to allow that to penetrate you or even change how you perceive yourself. See, that's what has affected a lot of us, is that we've allowed the opinions of others and that inner dialogue that's really not ours. Because I'm talking about the little you when you were young that knew you can believe that you can do all things, that all things are possible and impossible, because I am as I'm possible. And not I can't, because I can comes before the T. So you can. See, that's the thing, that the programming and what we're dispelling and coming out of is that a lot of us still carry these dialogues. See, it's you're the author. You can choose every day and every moment to rewrite your narrative, to rewrite your story. And then allow others to stay in the old chapters. Allow others to judge the book, meaning externally, the physical aspect, judge the book by the cover, but not know anything about the chapters, not know anything about the internal aspect, meaning that you are the living word, because you're writing this shit and you have the power to rewrite it. You have the power in choosing you again and never to lose you again. So in that, the little ones will see that, wow, it's just as much you've had these people who influence these people to hate themselves and not to empower themselves and not to believe in themselves, but more focus externally on these so-called these influencers, celebrities, whatever you want to call them, because that's their judgment and their justice too. These people know what they're doing. And so with that, they'll crumble with it. Think about how the social media, certain things, they want you to be more focused on them and their relationship. And you have no idea, because you're judging from the cover of the book. Oh, they look so happy, and have no idea internally what these people are going through. You know nothing about their journey. You know more, and that's the thing about how the relationship with you is so more important. Even your kids, even the people around you, even your family, whatever it is, they don't know you better than you know you. Because only you remember those emotions that you went through and how you felt. But see, through time where we've suppressed so much, some of us have numbed ourselves so much that we don't even remember when that traumatic experience happened or when this happened. We numbed ourselves so much through alcoholism or through escapism, because I'm not going to judge what people do, because I'm speaking from my experience. But in the collective, in the bigger picture, we've tried to escape from that pain. And we know that we never told those people that this shit hurt me. I was hurt by what you said. And then so we tried to grant ourselves that closure. And in reality, we never gave ourselves that closure. We try to say, oh yeah, that's done with. But you're talking about repressing stuff for so many years through your careers, through other people who influence you that you should do this, rather than you knowing you don't know you better than anybody else. See, that's the thing. At these ages, see, that's the thing. The root of it is that you were told by mom and dad or whomever it was, your caregiver, that this is what you should do. This is what if you don't do this, then this will happen. All of us have lived with that. All of us have been affected by that. But it stops in here now with you. But the fear for a lot of people is that they don't know how to walk away. They don't know how to come to that acceptance. Because we've been given so much things to keep the loop going of hating the parts of ourselves, but loving the external, hating the inside, but not loving, but be so more focused on the appearance. Because you're the gift. So you present yourself to these people. You present yourself externally, but having no idea who you are internally, how limitless you are, how limitless you've always been. Dive into yourself. Because a lot of fear there is rooted in abandonment. See, in that dark is abandonment. In that dark is those issues, those childhood traumas. In the dark, all those things that, again, that have been suppressed so much through sports, through whatever escapism, through so many things that you're like, nah. And you're talking about ancestors and people that came before that took it to the grave, took it to their transition, never truly being liberated, never truly knowing what it is to be sovereign, never truly knowing what it is to be free in the aspect of their mind and their being. So who is going to act this out? Because now your mask is falling. Shit, my mask had to fall away. Because what is that? Personality or persona in Latin means mask. Actually, you can research that. Make sure what percentage I'm on. Persona in Latin means mask. So these different personalities, I'm not here to convict anyone. The reality and the actuality is I cannot tell you what to do or how to go about it. But again, you're talking about now you're going to see the mask fall off a lot of people. And how authenticity is truly the key. If you can't be real with you, how the fuck you going to go out here and be real with somebody else? We've all been in that predicament where we seem like mind controlling the way, like we were living out something that really wasn't truly in alignment. I expressed to my partner, I said, you know what? No. You heard people say, don't do that in front of your kid. They do everything unapologetically. And so I told myself, I'm going to be, in fighting for my inner child and to regain that innocence, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be the best version of me. And why would not be the best version of me in front of, not just with me, but in front of everybody else? Because whatever judgment, whatever stone they throw and hide their hand is going to eventually be exposed. Because the version that people hate of me is the version they haven't accepted within themselves. Let me say that again. The version that people hate of me, that they refuse to embrace and accept, is a reflection of what they internally are battling with. Because in reality, they never were embraced by their mother. They never were embraced by their father. A lot of us didn't feel what it was to be truly embraced. You're talking about coming from abusive fucking homes. So when you talk about being embraced, you still got people living with the fact of trying to go out here to be embraced, seeking that. I was there, trying to seek out that same love. Men and women, we all were there, trying to seek, and that love can be displayed until we come to the self-realization that it was never love. It wasn't. It was a dysfunctional love, if you want to call it that. Unstable, a survival tactic. So when I tell people, yeah, my relationship with myself, I'm learning to rebuild that and be honest with myself and be honest and open with myself about my emotions, the parts of me that I wanted to hate for so long. It's being self-conscious about my smile, being self-conscious about, how would I look to the world if I don't if I don't be myself. And that takes a deep acceptance with myself before anybody else can really care, because who's to say they really do? It's truly about aligning with others who, again, know the importance of their relationship with themselves. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, because you're talking about layers. You healing this part, then you're like, oh gosh, I see why now I wasn't the best communicator, because I didn't know how to express myself emotionally, where I felt safe. So in these environments or places where I grew up at, I realized that I've been around these people I never felt safe around. I never really truly felt safe and secure, because these were the same people who inflicted the fucking trauma, who inflicted the pain. And the only way I can heal that pain if I separate myself or I remove myself from what's keeping me stagnant and rotten and not really living my truth. The only way I can get away from that to love me is if I get away from that which is causing the problem. See, the accountability comes in when you really be there for yourself, is when you start to acknowledge the fact that you're the solutionist. Still looking for mom and daddy or somebody else through codependency, through emotional attachments, which is only going to cause suffering. Still looking for external validation or acceptance to try to get these people to understand and comprehend your own emotions, when they don't know what it is to care for their own well-being. Make that make sense. Because some of them are already convinced on I don't like to say misunderstanding, but basically a lot of them are convinced already to misunderstanding you or misunderstanding, because they never knew what it was to understand. So they miss out on really being there for themselves or really honoring and raising themselves up, because they're still looking for mom and dad. A lot of these caregivers, parents, whatever you want to call it, are still, whether they want to accept it or not, they're still looking for their mothers and fathers' acceptance and validation and them being embraced. So they were affected by the same thing that was passed to you until you change it. They were affected by the same traumas. They may have lived it out differently, but in reality, they're not happy. And the truth is, they're miserable. And they're choosing to stay in that. And they're choosing not to evolve. They're choosing not to rise out of the darkness. They're choosing to become comfortable in that. You're talking about, when I was telling someone, it's like the programming of knowing, like, they're choosing to live in the fear. They're choosing, again, to, they've been in their shit so long that they don't even smell it no more. So they want to pull you in it. They want to try to hold you back. They want to use all these emotionally manipulative tactics. Want to use all these things like, oh, this is happening to me. Oh, you should be here. Yada, yada, yada. But what about being there for you for once? They're going to feel the ways regardless of whatever decision. They're going to talk regardless of whatever decision you make. But how this lifetime would you ever know what it is to truly love yourself again? How would you ever know what it is to truly love those parts of you that you know from these very same people who inflicted this, who projected it, who are insecure no matter what their status, no matter what their money, no matter what they have materialistically, are still not willing to change, are still choosing to vibe low, are still choosing not to rise like the phoenix that they are. So what do you think a generational curse breaker is? Because a lot of the fear for a lot of us is that we our mothers and fathers or generationally have been in this loop so long that the fear is in the unknown. See, look at the word known. It's like you already known who you are. These people already know who they are. They just fear the inevitable, or they fear what's on the other side of, if I don't do this anymore, if I don't let go of this relationship, if I don't leave this marriage, if I don't let go of these, the whatever it is that that over time through dysfunctionality, our people have, people have become emotionally attached and not knowing what it is to detach or let go. That's the one most challenging thing about being on a journey or healing journey, is that push pull, or that knowing that you have wings and not ready to let go. Energetically speaking, like you know what mothers, and I know what people who hoard, who have a lot of stuff in their homes, who have stuff, and you're talking about energetically holding on to stuff. They're not wanting to let go. And a lot of us try to convince ourselves that we could stay there, then we become like them. This is just fucking real, yo. I'm being real. You become what you like, birds of a feather flock together. You become that. You become consumed by their darkness. And some of them already know that you are bigger than what you are. I said this to my partner. An elder told me, he said, your mother and father, or whomever, it's been revealed to them, your destiny or the greatness that has been instilled in you. Now think about that. Ponder on that. They've already known this, right? So it's been shown to them. Some people are like, what do you mean? It's been shown to them. So it was their responsibility to give you and show you, not materialistically all those things that are valuable, but what's inside of you that's valuable. Now, go back to their mother and father. It was to reveal to them the greatness. So you got to think about, a lot of spiritually, people in your family that do a lot of stuff, that know and can see, because it's in you, it ain't on you. See, the bigger picture is that they never see. The spiritual currency is so important. And what I mean by that is like you believing in you. See, if I can get you to believe externally more in something else rather than yourself, I got you. But I want to sit here and tell you to believe in you again, to trust in you again, trust your intuition, trust those nudges, those guides to get out of that circumstance. See, the fear of the unknown is not knowing what's not only on the other side, but the things that you see, the Most High, because your life can change like that, is that the Creator removing everything from you. See, that be the biggest battle right there. Y'all don't want to let mama and daddy go. Y'all don't want to let your kids and a lot of this and that. But what if I told you that even though you have kids, even though you have a mother, whatever it is, whoever's in your life, what if I told you that they will never, how could I say this? Is that how could they prosper or have a possibility of prospering if you don't step into your own power? See, a lot of you mothers, I'm going to say this because Spirit telling me, a lot of you mothers are wondering why you can't get out of that loop or break that generational chain. It's because you are the one that's elected, that's been anointed to do something differently, to go against the norm, which isn't normal at all, which has not been normal, to break that dysfunctional loop, to break that generational curse that's been over your matriarchal, that's been over your family for how many years, for how long? Them not wanting you to reconnect to who you are. Think about that. How many women you know in your family that really know what it is to love themselves? And when I mean love yourself, I mean the versions of the grandmothers and great grandmothers that came before you, who knew their spiritual gifts, who knew their natural abilities, who didn't have the opportunity due to jealous relatives or due to people that you know right up under your ass right now.